Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Welcome to People Tech, the podcast of the HCM Technology Report. I'm Mark Pfeffer. Today, I visit with Gil Berteau, the CEO of Livestorm. It's a browser-based video tool that helps manage, among other things, meetings, webinars, and virtual events. We're going to talk about video technology and where it's going, redefining use cases to strengthen what users can get done, and more on this edition of People Tech. Hi, Gil. Welcome to People Tech. Well, let's start with the obvious question, which is, could you tell me about what Livestorm does?
Yeah, absolutely. So Livestorm is what we call actually a video engagement platform. So it is a workspace on which different teams, and actually sales, marketing, HR, will basically collaborate in order to create either webinars or meetings for their own purposes. And that's about it. That's pretty much what Livestorm does today. It works inside a browser, and the value proposition is about basically having a maximum engagement and maximum results on those webinars and business meetings without having to put a lot of input. So with minimum effort. Hence why we take care of all the rest around video, the whole, all-in-one features to help the organizer out.
I mean, it's got to be a tough place, tough market to compete in. I mean, aren't you going up against folks like Zoom and Teams and Slack?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're 100% right. We are the typical red ocean market, right? But the funny thing, actually, if you start, looking into it a bit more, you see that it's a market that has been around for, actually a pretty long time. We've been doing video on over internet for like 30 years or something. And only until recently, and especially after COVID, we had a surge of equipment and a surge of new technologies. And with that came a lot of diversity in the use cases around video. It used to be just like calls and perhaps some business calls and that sort of thing. But with COVID, especially with this acceleration, we've seen a lot of diversity of use cases. We've seen obviously the traditional yoga session, whatever, but also in the business case, you'll see live workshops, trainings, internal town hall with a lot of engagement and all sort of features, that even like podcasts, video podcasts, and so on and so forth. And with that emerged a lot of tools that were very specialized in those use cases. So what it means is for each use case, you almost had one specific tool. So you had one for demos, you had one for workshops, one for education, and so on and so forth. And the thing is, you end up with a video stack that gets very, very crowded, because either you have Zoom on the side, you have all those tools around, and then perhaps you have even something else for, big virtual events somehow. And the goal of Livestorm is to say there is this big space between what is a simple call and what is a very complex virtual event that you're going to host once, every year or twice every year. And there's a big space with all those meetings and webinars that actually requires a lot of ROI, because you put a lot of effort in it and you need to have some business results. So the marketing webinars, the demos, the workshops, the trainings with partners, that sort of thing that requires preparation, that requires ROI and analytics, and not just video. And that's the space, that's the middle layer between calls and virtual events that we want to address. So it is a very new and rather identified and scoped market that we have, and we called actually the space video engagement space, because at the end of the day, what matters the most in that space is the engagement and the results, and not the video itself, which is a bit counterintuitive in the video conferencing space, but I think that's the future.
It occurs to me that your market must have really been impacted by COVID-19.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that must have presented essentially an opportunity for you, because all of a sudden platforms like this were okay, where there'd been a lot of resistance. Can you talk about that? How you navigated COVID and adapted to it?
So I guess, we were on the good side of the fence on that one, definitely. Maybe I can tell you the story. When we enter, COVID in 2020, so that's about March for the first lockdown in France. It was not pretty much the same thing all around the world, and March is always a good month. But in this case, starting mid-March, we've seen a lot of new subscriptions, going through the pipeline of not just sales, but also self-service, people just paying by credit card. And every time I was refreshing the dashboard with the metrics, numbers would go up. So clients. And I was like, what's happening? And between mid-March and end of May, we went from 1,000 to 3,000 customers almost. So it was like a huge surge of growth in that specific moment. That continued also a bit along the year of 2020, and a more linear way also in 2021, with a queue of equipment, long tail need of equipment started also to get some tools. So essentially, in terms of pure revenue, we did a 10x between January 1st of 2020 and January 1st of 2022, essentially. So it was insane.
Greetings from Evergreen Podcasts. We're rolling out a listener survey, and we want to hear from you. The information in the survey will help us gather statistics and in turn make our shows more appealing to advertisers. I know most people don't like ads, but this is one of the only ways our shows make money and help keep their lights on. We promise it will only take a few minutes, but the impact on our podcasts will be tremendous. As a token of our appreciation, we'll randomly select one lucky participant each month to win an exclusive merchandise package from Evergreen Podcasts. Head to evergreenpodcast.com/listenersurvey to help a show and possibly get some free stuff for doing so. We can't thank you enough for the support. Now back to the show.
I mean, that's a big growth in a small amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, was that only the dynamics of the pandemic, or was there other trends?
Well, the pandemic it doesn't create demand. I think it has this function of catalyst, perhaps, and then maybe accelerating things. So I think what was there is that there was a technological change. There was actually being able to use more and more video inside a browser, and it was getting easier and easier to produce video inside a web technology. So that was the first parameters. The second thing is we've seen a lot of remote and nomadism, digital nomadism kind of trending. It was not very democratized before COVID, but it was trending up. And the last bit is remote selling and remote training was definitely something that was ongoing, because even Gartner actually had a story back then of, 80% of, sales leaders were actually, thinking about implementing remote sales because, it has so much ROI and it's actually much more efficient from a just cost perspective. So all those parameters combined, we've seen this acceleration of a need because you didn't have any choice, and all of a sudden people got equipped. So I guess in a way you could say that we gained perhaps 4 or 5 years of market evolution in just 1 or 1.5.
One of the things I wonder is, I guess, sort of the category that your platform is in. Do you consider it an HR solution or a workforce or office solution that happens to touch HR?
No, We definitely are more on the business side of things, so typically sales and marketing, and the HR internal use cases are more of a secondary use case, more of a collateral that happens when people start, using the product for secondary use cases, such as internal webinars, internal training, town halls, and so on and so forth, because they want to have everything. They want to centralize all those type of use cases into one platform. They don't necessarily remove Zoom and Teams of this world and just keep it on the side for those everyday calls that they have. But when it comes to having something a bit more structured with analytics, with integrations, with engagement at the core, then usually they move on to Livestorm, and that's it. So I would say it's more business first and then HR second.
The big, or one of the big debates or discussions in HR tech right now is about the whole notion of delivering services in the flow of work. Where do you folks stand on that? I mean, it seems like you're a natural to deliver HR services, in the flow of a number of different tasks. How do you approach that?
You mean from a company perspective or as a product?
Both.
Okay. From the product, I think it's, if you think about, how people work these days, it's, not going to make a generality of that, but, people tend to embrace collaboration and actually tend to use collaboration tool even when they're on a physical office. So typically when you're on a meeting table sitting around physically, you usually have, maybe an online tool like a whiteboard or maybe a documentation or something you can, work on together. And I think as a product, this is definitely a trend that we want to have in Livestorm and say that first we need to build something that is collaborative by design, something that embraces that, so that actually HR can work with marketing, because sometimes you want to have something that embraces both team for brand, employer, whatever that you're going to have. So that's one piece. And secondly, on the product, you need to I guess in HR, one of the golden rules is to have something that works both ways, where it's just not a top-down kind of relationship. It's also like a bottom-up relationship. And I think the product should also represent that. So that means that the value that people are getting from whatever training session, webinar, town hall, whatever, it's just not the quality of the message as a video or chat, whatever, that goes from the presenter to the presentee or the attendee, but also from the value that the attendee provides to the organizers, like AKA the engagement, right? So the chat messages, the questions, the emojis, the whatever, how they can interact with the presenter to give some kind of reward on saying, oh, this is interesting, oh, this is not interesting, oh, this is actually super valuable or not. All that kind of feedback loop that we need to have in a product is that representation of a relationship that works both ways. And actually, I think that's super relevant, especially in HR when you have, internal video conferencing sessions. Anyway, so that's for the product side of thing. And as a company, I think we use a lot of collaboration. We need to, there's two sides of the answer, actually. So the first piece is we make sure that people have access to knowledge. So that's the first brick. That's actually one of the core value of Livestorm. That's basically documentation and search first. So everything should be documented. And by default, since it's documented, it's usually transparent, and people can actually comment and actually leave feedback on whatever. And what documentation means, it could be either how to buy a train ticket, or it can be how to actually access the Livestorm vision of the product as it's going to be in 5 to 10 years. And you should be actually able to give feedback on both items. So that's the first way of thinking about it. And the second thing is I feel that from a pure HR relationship, we love OKRs. We try not to input too much in management. So what it means is OKRs is really good design for remote companies like us, because by default, we're not behind someone's back every time. We're not here to tap on their shoulder. So we give OKRs because it is very clear. It sets clear expectations. You have objectives and key results at the end of the quarter, and then whatever input you put in, we don't care. All we care about is the outcome, and we just see that every single quarter. And once you have that, then at the end of each quarter, we do what we call also a loop review. Actually, no, at the end of each semester is what we call a loop review, which is kind of a 360 feedback. So it's just not feedback on the quarter, on the semester about your objective, but also on the other people's objective. So I think it's a many-to-many relationship that we also try to implement on the HR level, strictly in management level as well. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. Sorry, that was a bit dense, actually.
No, I think it does. And well, listen, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And yeah, looking forward to hearing from you then.
My guest today has been Gil Berteau, the CEO of video communications company Livestorm. And this has been People Tech, the podcast of the HCM Technology Report. We're a publication of Recruiting Daily. We're also a part of Evergreen Podcasts. To see all of their programs, visit www.evergreenpodcasts.com. And to keep up with HR technology, visit the HCM Technology Report every day. We're the most trusted source of news in the HR tech industry. Find us at www.hcmtechnologyreport.com. I'm Mark Pfeffer.
The world's best-known investor and Wall Street expert Warren Buffett once said, "Wall Street is the only place that people ride to in a Rolls-Royce to get advice from those who take the subway." Mr. Buffett's quote is remarkably accurate, but how many people would rather receive advice from him than someone simply guessing? Welcome to Buy, Hold, Sell, your single source for Wall Street knowledge and profitable guidance. Please join me, Todd Schoenberger, and fellow trader Tobin Smith, as well as host Veronica Dudo, for a podcast known to move the needle for investors. Tobin and I are seasoned Wall Street executives with deep investment experience, and we are prepared to share our advice to those who choose to listen. Download Buy, Hold, Sell today on the Evergreen Podcast Network or your favorite podcast channel.
Do you love news about LinkedIn, Indeed, Google, and just about every other recruitment tech company out there?
Hell yeah. I'm Chad.
I'm Cheese.
We're the Chad and Cheese Podcast.
All the latest recruiting news and insights are on our show.
Dripping in snark and attitude.
Subscribe today wherever you listen to your podcasts.
We out.